Yes. Good morning, everyone. 26th February 2022. Let's see which are the important articles. Okay, look at the first page. So missiles hit Kyiv city on the defensive. तो capital city पे attack हो रहा है अभी वहाँ पर. Okay, and 70 Indian students moved to Romania. So Romania is one of the neighboring country on the western side. ठीक है, इस साइड से जो है वहाँ से इवैक्यूएट करने का प्लान चल रहा है जो इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स है वहाँ पे. सो ओके, इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स, इंडियन सिटीजन्स. सो विद द हेल्प ऑफ the embassies in Romania and Ukraine, so we are trying to evacuate our Indian nationals, especially the students who have been trapped there and facing the threat to life. Okay, bottom side पे जो news है, CBI arrest former official of NSC in Chennai. So it is found that the official we were talking in that discussion, so he is himself the yogi who was giving advice, or the NSC chief was sharing the we can say confidential files.
Her senior or
not senior? So she had appointed one person as an executive, so in a topmost position in NSC outside the management. Informally he was appointed, and indirectly with some email ID with the name of that yogi. So they were actually having this conversation.
she was also involved in it.
Yes, of course. She was sharing the confidential information with him and taking certain advice from him. And then the decisions were being made.
She is basically as a personal PA of Yojana.
Yes. So personal secretary also, or simply was guiding her in decision making. Let's see, further investigation is going to happen here by CBI. Okay. Now, surprise enemy with Indian arms, says Prime Minister. So, पता नहीं ऐसे सिचुएशन में ऐसे स्टेटमेंट देना भी मतलब let's see. But here the Atmanirbharta in defense call to action. So this webinar was organized and he was talking there. So of course Indian government is emphasizing on exports, defense exports of indigenous defense equipments. So that's why he was talking about this. Okay, so fine, that's all. The first page. Let's move on. Directly come to page number 6. Okay, so specific article from strategic perspective, Rakesh Sood, he is let's say former diplomat. Putin's move are highly chest thumping. So, but that is specifically talking about the let's say diplomatic moves, or we can say strategic moves by Russian president. Okay, तो यहाँ पे इंडिया का उन्होंने इतना डिटेल में कुछ डिस्कस नहीं किया है. So it is not directly relating to our syllabus. So we will not discuss. Rather on left hand side, the editorial, the perfect storm. So yesterday we were talking about there will be some kind of economic impact of this Ukraine and Russia military conflict that is going on India's economic interests. Okay, and that impact here it is discussed. Also on page number 12, business page, 2-3 articles are relating to the same topic. ठीक है, तो वो हम डिस्कस करेंगे. ऑन बॉटम साइड वन मोर आर्टिकल, अगेन इट विल बी रिविजन फॉर यू. Why it is in news? Because on Wednesday there was again arrest of some Indian fishermen by Sri Lankan Navy. So the same issue, the fishermen issue between India and Sri Lanka is discussed there. From IR perspective we can expect question. जो बार बार न्यूज़ में होता है उस पर क्वेश्चन ज़रूर आ सकता है. So again we will revise this topic. Okay, so this Silver Line project is going to be implemented in Kerala, So all this is discussed in detail from the ground zero. As I was telling you on Saturday, there is one article talking about ground zero. Generally, southern India के states जो है वहाँ का ही issue ज़्यादा डिटेल में डिस्कस होता है यहाँ पर. ठीक है. So fine. So we all know that this Silver Line project is connecting Kerala from north to south continuously across Western Ghat Hills. Infrastructure project. right? So this high-speed rail corridor project is having some negative impact on the environment. Also, there will be some impact on the livelihood of the local people. It may result into, we can say, some environmental disasters impacting the life and property of the local people. तो वो वहाँ पे protest चल रहा है इसके against.
If you run this project, most of the lands will be under the control of corporates now.
Yes, again, land acquisition problem is one of the major problem in such large infrastructure projects. तो इसलिए protest हो रहा है. Okay, fine. So on page number 8, 9, again it is not that much important. Okay. Yes. Page number 11, radiation spike in Chernobyl, Ukraine. So yesterday there was news that Russia has taken over the control of this Chernobyl decommissioned plant, nuclear plant. So Chernobyl incident है ना 1983 आई गेस ना जो लीक हो गया था एक्सप्लोजन के बाद यूक्रेन में. सो इट वाज अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ erstwhile USSR at that time, and later on after that we can say radiation exposure. What happened is it was decommissioned, दिस चेरनोबिल. उसके ऊपर एक बहुत अच्छी एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनी थी अभी एक रिसेंटली सीरीज, काफ़ी, हाँ नेटफ्लिक्स या हॉटस्टार पे कहीं तो था, बट काफ़ी अच्छा था वो नॉलेज के पर्सपेक्टिव से. ओके, यस. सो नाउ यूक्रेन एजेंसी, न्यूक्लियर एजेंसी, दे आर सेइंग दैट in the nearby area the radiation spike, gamma radiation spike have increased, and this is going to be a cause of concern in near future. If Russia is going to use nuclear we can say radiation as a part of warfare, then that is going to be concern not only for Ukraine but also for surrounding countries. ठीक है, so let's see what happens in future. Okay. Then on page number 12, the important news, they are talking about the economic impact of this conflict that is going on. India said to eye rupee trade to offset sanctions on Russia. ठीक है, तो ये जो sanctions होने वाले हैं, ठीक है, of course US and NATO country, European Union country, they will have certain sanctions on Russia. And because of that, India may not be having, may not be able to do the economic transactions in dollars or euro, and that's why there is need of some kind of arrangement here so as to continue the trade. ठीक है, अब रूपी में ट्रेड करने का हम एक्सप्लोर कर रहे हैं. The similar kind of arrangements were done when there were economic sanctions in 2018 against the Iran. Right, because of its nuclear enrichment program. So there were some sanctions, and then after also we had such kind of bilateral arrangement. ठीक है, so whatever the payment of the trade or for the imports and export that is required, so that will happen in rupee. So how it is going to be done, we will see that. The other news you can see that war has put Indian coffee exports to Ukraine in jeopardy. ठीक है, so yesterday we were talking about the exports of tea from India, one of the major export to these countries, Russia, Ukraine. So this is going to be the major problem. ठीक है, and on left hand side, Russia Ukraine crisis to further chokes coal supply. Okay, so further international prices of the coal will increase, and those power plants and also some of the industries dependent on the coal, imported coal, so they are going to face the problem. Some of the let's say port located iron and steel industry, they are dependent on imported coal, है ना, वाइजैक वाला जो है, या फिर बाकी इंडस्ट्रीज भी है जो पोर्ट लोकेशन पे, एल्यूमिनियम इंडस्ट्री ऑल्सो रिक्वायर कोल, सो दे आर डिपेंडेंट ऑन इंपोर्टेड कोल. Okay, so supply of imported coal and also increase in cost, this is going to create the problem for those industries. ठीक है, so yes, this is going to be the impact. We will discuss the editorial along with these articles. Yes.
Coal is going to be they are importing from Australia, so from Visakhapatnam to Australia is coming. So, is there any disturbance which comes at this route also due to that power effect?
No, not from Australia or we can say Indonesia or South Africa. So not from that route. Okay, but whatever the route from the European region, whatever the coal that is coming from European region, be it Western Europe or Eastern Europe, the conflict zone, that is going to be impacted. And global supply is not from one country. ठीक है, एक कंट्री से दूसरे कंट्री तक फिर वहाँ से आगे जाता है वो कोल सप्लाई जो है. ठीक है. सो वेन एवर लेट्स से द इंटरनेशनल मार्केट डायनामिक्स, सप्लाई एंड डिमांड इज वर्किंग, सो फ्रॉम दैट रीजन द कोल इज सप्लाइड. ठीक है. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द ओवरऑल कोल प्राइसेस वी आर टॉकिंग हियर, सो द प्राइसेस विल इंक्रीज बिकॉज ऑफ दैट. ठीक है. सो सप्लाई कम हो जाएगा ना ग्लोबल मार्केट में इफ सप्लाई इज रिड्यूसिंग, but demand is to be catered, no? So this price increase, right? So let's discuss this article. Also today is the birth anniversary of Swami Dayananda Saraswati, so again it is important from history perspective, some basic information about his life and Arya Samaj. So he started that social reform movement. So social reformers is part of our syllabus topic, so we will try to find out details of that. Yes, the perfect storm. Impact of Ukraine-Russia military conflict on Indian economy. Let's find out this. There can be question like this. Okay, maybe from strategic aspect there will not be question, but from the economic aspect there can be question in IR section as well as from international trade economy part GS3. Okay, let's find out. So what happened when there was invasion of Ukraine by Russia in last 2 days? Oil prices surged to an 80-year high of around $105 per barrel. Okay. Second thing, stock markets stumbled in India, NSE ho ya BSE ho. Then rupee we can say depreciated close to 76 per dollar. Depreciation of rupee happened. Also gold prices increased to 15-month high. Also we can say this multi-layered uncertainty created by this situation will keep investors' nerves on the edge. So investment will not happen. They will we can say always be concerned about whether investment will give returns. So they will be cautious about investment here onwards. Okay, so this is the situation. Now we know that the present stand that we are having, India's stand is principled stand. So India neither supports nor negates, so it is not taking side. India is not taking side of NATO or we can say side of Russia at present, and we can say that we are keeping ourselves at fence of this conflict. We are not entering into the conflict directly or indirectly. Okay, so there could be double-edged economic ramification for those sitting on the fence like India if the extent of sanctions against Russia are intense. Why we are saying that double-edged? Because we are not taking the side of either NATO or Russia. So no one is going to help us. ठीक है. तो अब अगर कोई एक साइड लेते हैं हम तो so that region those countries will help us, no? ठीक है. But now when we are at the fence, so of course we need to have some kind of more efforts with each and every country or grouping to have the continuation of this trade with these countries. ठीक है. So that's why more efforts are required. Also let's find out the impact on Indian economy in detail, talking about the imports. Okay, talking about the imports. Although the imports and exports from Russia in India, so they are less than 1% of total basket. ठीक है. However, we should understand that the oil imports from Russia negligible. Okay, oil and gas import from Russia at present negligible, and that's why they are replaceable. But which particular commodities we import largely? Fertilizers, very important for our agriculture sector. Second, not coal we can say, सनफ्लावर ऑयल. एडिबल ऑयल में पहले ही हम बहुत ज़्यादा इंपोर्ट करते हैं, उसमें ये सनफ्लावर ऑयल जो है मैक्सिमम इंपोर्ट हम रशिया से करते हैं. So that is going to be again major problem. Already we are facing the price rise of edible oils. Or when there will be supply shock of this, again there will be increase in the prices. Right. So these two commodities relating to agriculture sector, agri-commodities, agriculture sector, this is going to be the major concern. Okay. Talking about the exports. So from India, the exports like coffee, tea, and we can say that the other like pharma products. So of course they are going to also face the major problem. This is what we are talking. Coffee board has said that this conflict is going to reduce coffee exports to these countries. Okay. So that's why the impact of export in these areas, impact on imports in these areas. Likewise, you should remember. Okay, fine. So Indian economy, yes.
What about the defense deals?
Yes, so Russia has given the statement that there will not be impact on, we can say, the S-400 system, missile systems that is to be delivered, Triumph S-400, right? So that is to be delivered and there will not be impact on the defense exports. Okay?
But their defense and whatever the manufacturing, some of the goods are coming from eastern country, western countries. They are already given the sanctions. We are not supplying any defense equipment from the western countries to the Russia.
That is fine. Russia, whatever the indigenously built, they are selling to us. Maybe there will be delay. Okay? Of course, because of conflict, there will be delay.
Yesterday they given statement, so we are stopping the.
Of course, they will stop. So all the sanctions, financial, export, import sanctions will be there on Russia now. Okay, so there will be impact on India-Russia relations because of that. Because some commodities will be used as a raw material by Russia, no, and then it will be exporting some, right? Why fertilizer industry is famous in Russia?
More resources is there.
Which kind of resources? Largest resources of natural gas. Very important raw material required for fertilizer production. Okay, so that's why we should know why it is more. Okay, fine. So this is the impact of Indian economy. ठीक है, इंडियन इकोनॉमी पे जब भी हम बात करते हैं तो हम इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट की बात करनी चाहिए, इसके बाद में करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट की बात करनी चाहिए, ट्रेड बैलेंस एंड करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट. Although we can understand that there will not be huge impact on the trade, already we have forex reserves which are more than $600 billion, है ना? So there will not be issue related to this. Okay, so we are not that much worried about this, and in way forward we should say that there will be some kind of bilateral arrangement. There will be some kind of bilateral arrangement with Russia. So this is what the next article we are talking. So whatever the transaction that will happen between India and Russia, so it will happen in rupee now. So Russian accounts will be open in Indian banks, and whatever the payment is to be done, that will be done in rupee in Indian accounts, Indian banks accounts. This is the arrangement that was done with Iran also. So ये way forward में है. Okay, of course, and we should always emphasize on the multilateral platforms like UNSC is there, so that the early end to this conflict, and whatever the, let's say, conflict is there, that should be resolved through diplomatic channels.
Due to this process, we don't need to depend on SWIFT process now, sir.
Yes, of course, there will be some sanctions through SWIFT also. They are thinking of removing Russia from the SWIFT, and that's why this will help there. Okay? Yes, that's why we are thinking on this bilateral arrangement. Russia, see, India-Russia relations are like बड़े भाई छोटे भाई की तरह है. Since independence, we are having very good relations. Of course, despite of some ups and downs, छोटे भाई ने बहुत बार उनको तंग भी किया है, मतलब इंडिया ने, ठीक है, फिर भी रशिया ने हमेशा हमें साथ दिया है. Fine. हाँ. So of course, but we should understand that whatever the actions that are being taken by Russia, they are against India's principles that are we can say emphasized on international platforms, है ना? So we emphasize on democracy, we emphasize on peace and non-violence, we emphasize on peaceful resolution of the disputes, we emphasize on rule of law, we can say, or whatever the international order is there that is based on the rules or laws, international laws. तो ये जब वायलेशन होता है तो इंडिया क्रिटिसाइजेस दैट, जैसे चाइना का हम करते हैं. सो अप टिल नाउ वी हैव नॉट क्रिटिसाइज रशिया. ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस. ठीक है, सो ये आपको पता होना चाहिए. फाइन, लेट्स मूव ऑन. यस, so we are talking about this economic impact. So war has put Indian coffee exports to Ukraine in jeopardy. So some facts are mentioned here. Okay, so this, yes, traditionally the major soluble and instant coffee importers from India, these countries, okay, Eastern European countries, CIS countries मतलब, ठीक है. So Russia currently accounts for 75% of this, while Ukraine alone has more than 20% of share. ठीक है, तो you can see that both countries are the major contributor there. तो दोनों कॉन्फ्लिक्ट में है. ऑफ कोर्स कॉफी तो नहीं पियेंगे, ठीक है, वॉर चल रहा है तो. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी कैन से दैट इट इज गोइंग टू बी इम्पैक्टेड, राइट. ऑल्सो रशिया यूक्रेन वॉर इज लाइकली टू पुश अप द प्राइसेस ऑफ फ्यूल, मेटल और एल्यूमिनियम. इंस्टेंट कॉफी इज एक्चुअली एक्सपोर्टेड इन मेटल कैंस, जो एल्यूमिनियम के कैंस होते हैं, तो इसके भी प्राइसेस बढ़ेंगे. सो ओवरऑल इनपुट कॉस्ट विल इंक्रीज. ओके, सो दैट्स व्हाई एक्सपोर्ट्स विल बिकम कॉस्टली. Export of coffee from India. Also, it would spiral the logistic cost because the cargo services will reduce in international trade. Okay, so prices will go high. तो ये सारा contribute करेगा जो है export costly होने में. Also talking about the coal, yes, this military conflict which has increased energy prices globally will reduce the propensity to import the coal by power plants and will further hamper the supply of fuel to captive power plants and industries like steel, aluminium from state-owned Coal India. Captive power plants are those power plants which use the coal from a particular coal mine only. Okay, so that are captive power plants, जिसको बोलते हैं दूसरी जगह से वो नहीं coal use करेंगे, उनका एग्रीमेंट होता है वो, राइट. यस, सो दे आर गोइंग टू फेस द प्रॉब्लम हियर. दिस इज द स्टेटमेंट गिवन बाय कैप्टिव पावर प्रोड्यूसर्स एसोसिएशन, इंडियन कैप्टिव पावर. ठीक है, सो यू जस्ट बी अवेयर अबाउट द डेवलपमेंट्स व्हाट इज हैपनिंग हियर. ऑल्सो वन मोर थिंग, इंडिया सेड टू आई rupee trade to offset sanctions on Russia. This is what we are talking. Yes. Indian officials are concerned that vital supplies of fertilizers from Russia could be disrupted as sanctions intensify, threatening India's farm sector. Okay, so India's plan is to get Russian banks and companies to open accounts with few state-run banks in India. Okay, for trade settlement. Funds in such account act as a guarantee of payment for the trade. Okay, also India had used it with Iran after it came under Western sanctions for its nuclear weapons program. Okay, fine. Now, troubled waters. Again, we will discuss this issue from international relations perspective, India-Sri Lanka relation, fisherman issue. Recently, Sri Lankan Navy arrested 22 fishermen who are from Nagapattinam and their neighboring Karaikal on 23rd February. क्या है ये कराईकल? पौंडीचेरी की टेरिटरी है ना ये, पुदुचेरी या पौंडीचेरी जो है उसके 4 टेरिटरीज जो है उनमें से एक कराईकल है ना, राइट. यस, नागापट्टिनम वेरी फेमस एंशिएंट पोर्ट. ठीक है, सो ये नागापट्टिनम है, तमिलनाडु फिशरमैन वहां से वो अरेस्ट हुए. ओके, एज पर द एस्टिमेट श्रीलंका ऑथोरिटीज हैव ऑल्सो impounded 84 boats that have been we can say that taken control from the Indian fishermen they are already having 29 fishermen in their custody. This is the situation. Also, in the last 1 year, there has been instances of death of fishermen from Indian side also, and on Sri Lankan side also. Okay, so this is the situation. Now, frequency with which Tamil Nadu's fishermen allegedly cross international maritime boundary, IMBL. ठीक है, तो वो आपको पता होना चाहिए, ये वर्ड आंसर में लिखना है. International maritime boundary line, despite being aware of consequences, highlights their level of desperation driven by livelihood concern. So we always emphasize this. This is the livelihood issue. ठीक है, livelihood issue for both Tamilian fishermen from Indian side and Sri Lankan fishermen. ठीक है, दोनों का livelihood का issue है, and all fishermen venture into that Park Bay region, which is, we can say, rich, having the fish resources, aquatic resources, and these marine resources, because of that, and also it is narrow region, no, that's why frequent movement of these fishermen into each other's territory happens. ठीक है, yes. So also we should understand the concerns related to other things. The main concern here is that the bottom trawlers used by Indian fishermen, in these bottom trawlers, what happens is all the fish varieties, and also we can say the fish egg and other aquatic animals, marine animals, they are also getting trapped into these nets and they are dying. Basically, it is affecting the biodiversity of that region, overall ecosystem of the region, and that's why we should also understand, once the biodiversity is lost, of course its services will be also lost. है ना, ये जो बायोटिक सर्विसेज जो है, रिसोर्सेज जो है, इट इज इकोसिस्टम सर्विस. ओके, एंड वंस द बायोडाइवर्सिटी लॉस, ऑफ कोर्स द प्रोडक्टिविटी ऑफ द इकोसिस्टम reduces, right? So that's why this is the main concern. Bottom trawlers used by we can say Tamil Nadu fishermen for the commercial fishing purpose, that is the major concern, and that's why the Sri Lankan fishermen are concerned about this. Second thing is that although the government had come up as an alternative to this for deep sea fishing project, deep sea fishing project, okay, but this has not been successful. This has not been successful. Fishermen को incentives तो दिए थे under this project, but they are still venturing into Park Bay areas. They are not interested in going into deep sea for fishing. Okay, so this is the concern. Third concern is that, as earlier we have discussed, these fishermen are actually not the fishermen. Rather, these are very small fishermen recruited by large businessmen in fishing industry in Tamil Nadu, right? And they are employing them. So basically, it is a kind of issue of livelihood also, and also the strong influence, lobby that Tamil Nadu is having of these businessmen. ठीक है? So they are not removing the use of, or not eliminating the use of bottom trawlers.
Some of the pharma companies also doing for the exploitation, so due to for their chemical research.
Yes. Of course, the marine resources will be used for pharmaceutical also. Now, the way forward, of course, there is one working group, joint working group on fishermen issue. ये आंसर में लिखना है ऐसे डायरेक्ट, between two countries. And last meeting of this happened in December 2020. After that, there is no meeting. So through diplomatic channel, it should happen, no? So this should be revived. Second thing is that more and more talks at fishermen level should be also promoted, because there is some kind of ethnic similarity on both sides. Both are having Tamilian, we can say, civilization background, and that's why if they are allowed to talk within themselves, suppose there are a group of farmers, okay, and they are meeting with each other, they are having some deliberation, and compromise is also can be happening between these fishermen, as it is livelihood issue for both. Long term में impact fishermen इनको भी होने वाला है, ठीक है? So of course there should be promotion of the fishermen level talks and the joint working group diplomatic level talks. Okay, so yes, this can be mentioned in the way forward, and yes, Indian government should further incentivize Indian fishermen in the deep sea project, fishing project. ठीक है, ultimately अगर बहुत ही problem होने लगा तो the government should ban that bottom trawlers. Already actually the we can say guidelines are there that it should not be used, but there is continuous use by the Tamil Nadu fishermen. ठीक है, so ultimately we need to ban that. It is unsustainable fishing practice. ठीक है, yes. Yes, स्वामी दयानंद सरस्वती, हिस्ट्री पर्सपेक्टिव से आपको पता होना चाहिए. We'll talk about as there is birth anniversary today. Okay, so he was born in 1824 in Brahmin family in Gujarat. The original name, birth name as Mool Shankar. Okay, yes. So at 21 he left home. For 15 years he wandered and led a life of, we can say, wandering scholar in search of knowledge. And his guru, he received the knowledge from his we can say blind saint scholar Swami Virjanand, who taught him about Vedas. Okay, 2.5 years in Mathura as a disciple of the blind saint scholar Swami Virjanand, who taught him philosophical interpretation of Vedas and then charged him with the mission to purge Hinduism of its ugly accretions and aberrations. So basically whatever the, let's say, unethical, immoral practices, religious practices in Hindu religion were going on, to purify that. So he started later on, we can say that, or founded the Arya Samaj in Bombay in 1875. This can be asked in prelims examination. And later on the headquarter was shifted to Lahore. Okay, yes. Now he translated the Vedas and wrote 3 books. सत्यार्थ प्रकाश इन हिंदी, ये भी पूछा जा सकता है आपको बुक्स के नाम. वेद भाष्य भूमिका, एन इंट्रोडक्शन टू हिज वैदिक कमेंट्री, एंड वेद भाष्य, अ वैदिक कमेंट्री इन संस्कृत ऑन यजुर्वेद. ओके, सो द लिटरेचर यू कैन, ही गेव द स्लोगन गो बैक टू वेदास, एंड द वेदास आर द सोर्स ऑफ ऑल नॉलेज. सो बेसिकली इट इज, और essentially it is the revivalist movement. What is revivalist and reformist movement in history?
Revivalist, bringing tradition back.
Yes, and reformist?
Reformist to change modernistic perspective.
To modernize on the basis of liberal principle, westernized principle or liberalized principle, right? So, and revivalist is basically reviving the origin of that religion or religious practices, right? So, maybe there's some kind of impurities may have crept into the religious practices, and we need to eliminate those impurities and revive the original religion. ठीक है, तो ये होता है revivalist, and each and every religion has seen such kind of revivalist movements also. ठीक है, so this is essentially the revivalist movement. Arya Samaj rejected all post-Vedic developments in Hinduism and thus denounced meaningless rites or worship of the images of different gods and goddesses. Okay, so according to him, the post-Vedic developments or later Vedic period, so whatever the developments that happened, the different Puranas were written, basically because of that only what immoral practices started in the religion. Okay, so that's why he said that go back to Vedas. Okay, so let's see how these principles of Arya Samaj have been we can say given. यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं हम, ये भी आपको पूछा जा सकता है प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन में. Okay, so he believed in infallibility of Vedas. So he said that Vedas are the ultimate source of knowledge. Every question will have answer in Vedas. Okay, so he is saying that infallibility of the Vedas. Also he opposes idol worship and reincarnation theory of the God. Okay, so he is against the idol worship. Many of the social reform movement, they are against the idol worship. ठीक है, लॉजिकली ऐसे ध्यान रखना है. बट डिस्पाइट ऑफ दिस ही सपोर्टेड द कर्मा थ्योरी. ठीक है, सो he accepts the doctrine of karma and transmigration of soul, and he rejected the theory of destiny, जो fate या नियति की बात करते हैं हम, right? So it is part of niyati, it is part of destination. So he is against that. Now he believed in one God who has no physical ठीक है? So one God, then rejects Brahmanical dominance in spiritual and social life of Hindus. He rejected the Brahmins acting as intermediaries between the people and God. Okay, so that's why he was against the idol worship. He was against the different rites, prayers, yajnas which are performed. ठीक है? Yes, he supported 4 Varna system, Chatur Varna system, but Varna system should be based on merit and not birth. Merit in a let's say terms of, we can say, the labor, the skills, intelligence that the person is having. So any person from any, we can say, caste can be we can say proficient in Vedas. So he should be allowed to do that function. So he can be a, we can say, priest. ठीक है? तो ऐसे उन्होंने मेरिट के ऊपर बोला है वर्ना सिस्टम. Right, advocated equal status for women in the society. He worked for the education of the women. He also, we can say, worked for widow remarriage, supported the widow remarriage, Arya Samaj, and opposed polygamy and child marriage and sati systems. Okay. Now, he backed the propagation of Hindi and Sanskrit languages, denounces socio-religious evils such as animal sacrifice, religious pilgrimage, feeding the dead through shraddha, then magic and charms, etc. Basically, these are developed after later Vedic period, we can say. ये जो है सारा बाद में develop हुआ है, and that's why he negated. Now, some of the controversies related to, we can say, this Arya Samaj and Swami Dayananda Saraswati, and main one was this Shuddhi movement. Okay, so according to this Shuddhi movement, this particular, let's say, reconversion was allowed. So they believed that many of the Hindus, especially scheduled caste people, Dalit people, were converted into Christianity, and they should be allowed to come back into the Hindu religion. So they started Shuddhi movement. Okay, and also cow protection. So he formed this cow protection association, but it was to some extent instigated Muslim religion at that time and resulted into some riots also at that time. ठीक है, cow protection जो हुआ. Fine. So remember this thing. ये principles आपको याद रखने हैं. ये आपको एग्जाम में पूछा जा सकता है. Like for example this one. Okay. Yes. So incorrect statement about Arya Samaj. It opposes idol worship and incarnation theory of God. Yes, this is correct. Then the third statement, it rejects the Brahmanical dominance. This is also correct. Advocated widow remarriage and female education. See how to use logic, how to eliminate the options. Majority of the social reform movements, they worked upon the widow remarriage, female education. This should be correct. Also they opposed the idol worship. तो ये भी हम बोल सकते हैं कि eliminate हो जाएगा. Also we can say that many of them, especially some caste movements जो है, South India में Periyar movement जो है, temple entry movement जो है, so all they actually were against the Brahmanical dominance in the society. Okay. So हम ये भी बोल सकते हैं, ऐसे तीनों को आप एलिमिनेट कर सकते हैं और ये आप राइट मार्क कर सकते हैं. ऐसे अप्लाई करना है एग्जाम में. एग्जैक्टली मे बी यू मे नॉट बी एबल टू रिमेंबर इन एग्जामिनेशन वेदर इट एक्सेप्टेड और रिजेक्टेड कर्मा. ठीक है, थ्योरी ऑफ कर्मा. तो लॉजिक यूज करिए, एलिमिनेशन यूज करिए. फाइन. हाँ. No, he believed in one God, which is not having any physical existence. So that is not Nastik.
Nastik will not believe in any God.
हाँ, he will not believe in any God. or atheist we call them as, है ना?
Which gods are you believe?
Huh?
Which god you believe?
No God. So basically there is no physical existence, but there is some inclination of, we can simply say that the Hindu religion. ठीक है? So he was against of many gods. This philosophy, many gods, many idols, their worship, different rituals, and then the Brahminical dominance as an intermediary. वो उस चीज के against थे.
Then which category we need to send him, sir? Either Nastic or...
No, he is Astic, no, he is believing in God, no. So he is theist. No, of course, that's why we should understand here that there is no need of having the God to believe in the God. We need not to name the God to believe in the God. ठीक है, theology में आप ये पढ़ते हैं, right? So of course, whatever the social reform movements are there, they believed in the God, but that does not mean that there is requirement of, idling that, giving some characteristic to that God, or to, let's say, letting it take the physical existence. ठीक है? So even Buddhism, जिसको हम बोलते हैं, समझो. So of course they do not believe in God, but they believe in the Buddha's principles, and those principles are actually used in a religion for by the followers. ठीक है? So they do not believe in the God itself, rather. But then other different sects came within the religion, Buddhism. Of course, there are different sects. They started believing the idol worship. Some of them started believing in idol worship. जो northern side जो है, they started believing in idol worship. Southern, let's say, side जो है, जैसे Sri Lanka, Myanmar, these countries, they still believe in that, in the Buddhist teachings and not in idol worship. ठीक है? तो ये आप हिस्ट्री में पढ़ते हैं, so that is fine. अभी हिस्ट्री का मॉड्यूल चल रहा है आपका प्रीलिम्स का, right? So I hope that you are following that. Yes, yesterday's query about the president. So the personal impunity, the legal impunity and the criminal impunity we were talking about, right? So the president is having in his personal capacity the criminal acts, for his criminal acts there is impunity. So he cannot be having the criminal charges against him even in his personal acts when he is in office. For civilian acts, we can say there can be proceeding after 2 months of notice in the personal acts. ठीक है? Official capacity में उनको पूरा का पूरा impunity है. ठीक है? In official acts. Yesterday I was telling you, because the official acts are not, we can say that decisions are not directly taken by, indirectly they are, we can say, advised by the Council of Ministers. That's why in official capacity there is complete, we can say, impunity, legal as well as criminal. But for personal acts, criminal impunity is there. ठीक है? Civilian नहीं है. ठीक है? Civilian proceeding, just because it is a ceremonial head, nominal head of the state, and that's why we need to protect the image. ठीक है? Okay, any other question? Fine? Okay. Okay.
So you prepare this every morning?
Which one?
Hindu slide?
Yes, of course.